Hello and good morning to everyone. Welcome to this free webinar. From wherever you are, I've seen your names and email IDs. I really thank you for signing up for this. This is a webinar designed to express, the topic. My intention is basically to help schools, preschools, and other institutions to weave in a same page. What I feel is that education is just not about parents sending children to school and then school taking care of it, or certain people who are looking into different roles and they're doing their jobs. No, it's more about building a community, a network full of thinkers, full of people who care for education, who care for child development. If I talk about myself, I do care it with one reason, that I'm super selfish and I do want to help the world. And the best way to help and to start with would be to work on the foundation and the crucial and tender years of children, because they are going to be the citizens who are going to take care of the world. So with all of that going on in the world, which it has an impact on our mental health or our perspective of how we look at people and world as a community. So forget about the adults. What is happening with children has the direct impact of the future that's going to be in front of us. Having said that, as a kind of a purpose of this work that I've taken up, let me introduce myself first. So my name is Shruti Nagar, and I have over 12 years of experience in education. I have enjoyed this journey beautifully by having diverse experience in the whole education spectrum and finding my purpose in life. So I enjoy mixing those skill sets and those experiences to help develop some relevant, high quality learning experiences for children. My second book was out last year, and it was setting the right expectations for children in early years. It's called The Wrong ABCs of Preschool. Do have a read if you're really interested to learn about mindful education and what is the impact of the world in the foundational years. And of course, it is kind of a workbook that helps teachers and parents to go through a whole idea of child development. And a passionate learner. I believe we need more learners than leaders. Leaders are the ones who are the passionate learners. So yeah, that way. Anyway, so today we are going to have this webinar, the course. Basically, I've designed a lot of documents on it. Only on demand I'll be able to share, and that is definitely part of the program. But let me introduce why this topic. So this is assessment tips for schools. Of course, you can include preschool. When I say school, it's an institution. It's a transition for returning children to school. So post-COVID, were curiously waiting for children to come to school, and hey, when are we starting the school? We need to get some numbers. Those who are preschool owners and school founders, they were like, hey, we need to meet numbers, we have to cross this missions and this, that. All of that is fine. But I realized, have we looked at very critical factor of what is the stage, status, pace, and experience those children are going to come to school? For us, it may be an admission, but they are the souls entering your school. And if I emphasize on that factor of individualized persona of a child, every child is coming from different emotional experience from the family, from what they've gone through, and so on. Although it looks very celebratory that the schools have started and children are going to school, parents are also feeling, hey, we are going back to normal and stuff like that. But in this new normal, we have a different sort of area to take care. Right now, it was academic and creative and this, that, but now we have social emotional learning as priority. It's just not one session in the classroom or free period or zero period about mindfulness. No, it doesn't help children to grow, but it's something that has become a priority. And I'm sure many of us have identified the same issue, the same problem, and many of you, the school leaders, have already initiated certain work on that, and it's really commendable to see that. However, I wanted to also highlight the fact of assessment of not the children, it's really wrong to say, but the learning of the children. And here I will be also presenting some strategies for partnering with families. All right. And this is the agenda that's for today. I'm sorry. So we're going to talk about possible impact, data collection, social emotional learning experience, basically integrating it into the school practice or academics, then intentional planning for home as well as school, asking open-ended questions, and records. So in record, it means that which tools are going to be used, or what are the different ways we can keep recording what's happening with children. Of course, I've done it. All right. So I've gone through reports like you. I've also looked at UNICEF, WHO, and UNESCO reports on the data of the impact country-wise and different. It is not unusual for children to experience negative emotions, such as fear, disappointments, sadness, anxiety, insecurity, loss, anger, etc. And and of course, we've seen that after the pandemic, that we don't know what children have gone through. They might have losses in their families, and they financial people, they've lost their close ones, or they have had experience of seeing how the adults are dealing with the situation. Let me tell you, children take cues for emotions from adults. So if I, as a parent, or if adults in the house are radiating insecurity from them, or stressed, sad, the children, you've seen that, right? And that's for sure. And imagine, with the COVID, we all were into this situation, um, experiencing similar emotional, levels, and children have seen that, and they experienced that vibration, that kind of low energy in the house, which was really putting their mental health in jeopardy as well, along with the adults. So what have we done about it? Let's discover later. But yes, I'm sure many of us agree with this impact. Being a parent, and of course, whoever is the guardian in the house, the adult did experience a great challenge to either engage children, divert the children from the situation around, or creating stories so that they also are at peace and children are also at peace. Try to manage that routine and momentum of sometimes just celebrating for no reason, or ensuring they don't miss their friends and stuff like that. In order to do so much, even adults lost their own mental side. That they were like, okay, they had no vision, what am I doing? And then they started looking at different ways to have peer interaction through internet, I mean through Zoom meetings, or through video calls, or through arranging a small party get together, going back to their house and homes. I know my friends who left their city homes where they used to live. Of course, the schools were closed and there was this work from home, so they moved back to their towns, and they're like living there with their grandparents or the community they come from. So this was all interesting experience that children might have from the city to a lot of people in the house, from so much of attention, and then suddenly we're waiting for things to get normal, and then they get back to the city and they're all alone. So where is that transition is something that we have to reflect on. I'm not saying there was the transition missing. Maybe people must have taken care of, but we haven't discussed much about it. So it's not a common topic to talk. Hey, the neighbors talking to each other. How did you manage or transit from school to home, or home to school, or from the town? Nobody talks about it. They only say, which school are you putting in? Is the school open? How much is your child missing the learning? Is your child able to cope up and stuff like that? So here the main question that we are highlighting is the transition, because before the parent or the guardian or the school begin to assess the learning of the child, it is very important to assess ourselves on how much have we taken care of the transition from the situation to the other. Self-care daily routines, of course, you can see on the slide. I've taken this, the source is the report by UNICEF 2020 on COVID pandemic, on impact of mental health in children. Of course, this is, like I said, children often take their emotional cues from the key adult in their lives, including parents, teachers. It's important that adults manage their own emotions as well as they remain calm, listen to children's concerns, speak kindly, assure themselves. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's super difficult. It's super difficult until and unless the adult is mindful, has really worked on the self-development aspect, knows to control and regulate the emotion, only then you can reveal. So it's very easy to say, hey, you are an adult, try to control emotion. But no, it's not easy. It's not in our basic routine or exercise in daily life. So yes, this is important. But if you haven't looked into it, I'm sure many adults must have gotten themselves into self-development experiences or certain routine, like doing meditation in the morning, yoga, or writing journal, or anything that made them calm by doing it. So congratulations if you've done that, or see what best can be happening. Now, unattended mental health problems. This is key. I must have highlighted that, but I forgot anyway. Unattended mental health problems that can disrupt children's functioning at home, school, and in the community. My friends in education space, there some of them are running schools, and they have their own schools. I've got this experience from them that when children are coming back to school, returning to school, they are experiencing that there is a bit of slowdown. I said it's not the slowdown, it's the gap, which, of course, after 2 years, if anybody's returning to school, there is a lot that the child has gone through, and especially 0 to 6 years, which is so crucial, really be on toes. And that's why I say being parent or being a teacher is not definitely easy, especially educator or a caregiver of this age group. It's very difficult to, because whatever you do, the actions, the experience, the words, the language, the environment that is served to the child, is it's kind of building their characteristics, they're building their experiences with the world. So if I say, hey, don't go out there, there's bad people, so the child looks at the world as bad people. The experience is very general example, but yeah, I just want to say what I now, where to start and what are the sources for your planning. So very important idea of any, I'm sorry, what am I doing? So any idea that we want to start with. So if I'm starting my school, and when children are entering or returning to school, it is very important that we look at who they were, or where they were when they left. I agree, if your staff is not continued with you, and so you may not have that enough data. But if you don't have enough data, it's a big question on the school. It's a big question on the classroom or the accountability holders, because not having enough anecdotes or observation reports in early years is dangerous. Even in the care center, the observation is so important. But if you promise the child development or the learning for the child, and you're not having the observation, or we don't have that enough data or evidences, it's a big question mark. So start from where you left. So look at the previous notes or observations of the child. If the child is new to the school, try to ask enough open-ended questions to parents and write the answers, so that you have enough data to understand the experience of the child, interest of the child, the likes and dislikes, and if there is any incidences that you need to be aware of before you plan the activities or the welcome for the child. Home visits, I believe, because I have done home visits earlier in my career, and I feel it gives a lot of idea. I remember there was this child who the teachers used to keep complaining that he never speaks and he's always away. There is no social bonding with the peers, and never answers in the question. And these were the common complaints about the child. So one day I went for the home visits, and I went for the home visit, and I went to this child's house. When I entered the house, it was whole huge bungalow, and it was all dark, because of course there were only two people in the house. Secondly, the child was sitting alone and playing, because there was only one adult, his grandmother, in the home. The father used to come late at night. So this is the situation. So when I saw this visual, I realized this is the reason why the child is not speaking. If I wouldn't have gone or visit the child, I wouldn't ever have come across the source of him being alone in the class or preferring to play alone. So guys, home visits very important. And of course, if now that you can have, of course, you take precautions in these times to go to anybody's house, have a proper meeting, appointments, schedule, so that you can also manage your time and try to visit. And not necessarily if you have 20 children or 10 children in the classroom and you're going for all the houses in the same quarter, choose different quarters. Okay. Focus is very important for educators. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we experience fatigue is because we try to do same thing for all the children at the same time. It's not possible. You have to set priorities. You have to set, what are you working on right now? That's why we have in the curriculum, while we design any lesson or a classroom or academic planning that we do have learning objective forced in the mind. Otherwise, you're going to be distracted all throughout the course. So try experience doing that. If you've not done it before, do it. Of course, if not possible for the home visit, you can have a video call or Zoom meeting for with the parents or the guardian, whoever is taking care of the child at home, and just see the environment in the classroom where the child sits, plays. Of course, taking care of the safety. I don't trust the online thing because of the security of the child. I don't enjoy children being on camera. These days, Instagram reels are full of children videos for adults entertainment, which is really crazy. I don't think it's a good idea. But my thinking not being good idea doesn't make any difference. But if you also have the common thought, try to educate people who are doing it. So that's in the context of India, because we don't put smiley on the face. We just show everything that the child is doing on camera and then get likes and views and then forget about what is going to be the long-term impact. Preparing for survey questions is very important. What children went through during those gap years or when they were not in the school, who were the people they were closest to, which materials or toys they enjoyed the most, what else did they learn, anything new that any new place or locations you went, and what was your child's experience. See some photographs that family would have or the experience or evidences they might have, and just collect those open-ended it's sort of an open-ended interview wherein you can just take the insights which you think might be relevant to your objective of the visits. And of course, the home visit cannot be an overall or holistic visit. You need to go with the focus idea. You need to have one inquiry in mind as an adult and then visit the home so that you get what you're looking for. The other idea would be making portfolio digitally. If you have your laptops and the system in place, you can have portfolio made for, so you have a photo of the child and then you have the development areas and then just fill in the observation and pointers that might help you to describe the whole profile of the child as a homeroom teacher or the class teacher or school founder, whoever is doing this job. And of course, the people who are working with children must do this job. Otherwise, it becomes a separate perspective of the whole profile. And the intention of portfolio is just to keep and maintaining the records of everything that you need to know about child to be able to make optimal and effective lesson plans or curriculum planners for them to go through. And that's where you can call yourself developmentally appropriate school. Otherwise, it's just a marketing gig that you're using. Preparing a transition that is with due respect to the background. There could be any cases where you might not know, so just don't assume things. We generally assume where to start. Everyone must be impacted by the COVID, let's pick some emotional classes, social emotional learning. No, you can't assume unless you have known the story. You are an educator, you are a school, you have more responsibility towards being authentic to what you're serving to the children. So don't assume, have a proper transition plan, from their situation to the other. Using assessment of learning with help of standardized document. I think we should, no, don't make your own. There are research available. I personally recommend COR from HighScope because I've known that. I've used it in the past with footprints in my previous organization. You should see that document, so well designed. And of course, there are different rubric assessment forms that are available for different age groups, or you just look at the credibility of that document, that how much evidence is or what sort of report comes out of that experience. Do you get your answers? Do we get the whole perspective of learning, pace wise, development wise from it? So do that test by yourself, see if it meets to the relevance anything that is around the child's development. So does it meet those standards? You have to see by yourself, and always have a group discussion so that you're not just in your internal thinking, but you're also taking different opinions and interaction with other people in your group. Use past anecdotes or profile that you have noted. I already shared about it. If the child is returning, the child is new, of course, the source would be the parents or the family people. The next aspect is integrating social emotional learning. This was or used to be part of many programs, I believe. I know it's been like many, it's not new, it was already there in the whole space, but the implementation priority was different. So this could have been just one session or 1 hour free period or zero period or half hour or 40 minutes of session for different classroom, and it was maybe a outing program or any sort of activity that must be designed. But today, social emotional learning or integrating social emotional learning into academic or the school program is a priority. You go through any report, you go through any study available online, you listen to or you read this term SEL, social emotional learning, as a priority. You don't have to do anything extraordinary for this. All you have to do is be human. I'm going to share certain things and read out from the slide that it places a priority on creating a caring environment for learning and focuses on forming relationships among families, teachers, community members, peers, and the environment. Applying SEL concepts in the classroom fosters richer student engagement, collaboration, and trust. And let me highlight this: trust, which is not so right at this point in time, right? From the source of fear, survival, insecurity, scarcity, where do you see trust? And this was fed to us last 2 years or maybe many years, or people coming from different backgrounds, their situations, their dealings. So trust is something that you have to nurture, that you have to build, that you have to create. It's not just assumed factor or emotion that or a bond that you have between two people. So how can educators introduce this? Let's discuss. This is the whole wheel that's available by Castle and the other groups who are extensively researched and presented a lot of documents about this from different countries and different sample activities that can help you to integrate directly in the classroom. So there's a whole spectrum of it, that it's about self-awareness, responsible decision making, relationship skills, social awareness, and self-management. So these are the key factors. Of course, you can look into this, you can have this as your wheel to plan. Okay, many very important part here is that it's just not about children, but educators. Sometimes we forget, being school leaders or owners or whoever, whatever role you play, that when the educators come in, we always try to utilize people in place of filling the gaps. Very impulsively, we forget that these guys are also coming from the similar experiences and impact that the children are having. The only difference would be in kind of navigating those emotions or regulating the emotions, which adults might be better than the children at this moment in time. At the same time, children are not aware of this as the impact. So it's a very critical conflicting statement, which we can discuss later. But all I want to say here is that educators are also your children, if I were to put that way, that anybody who's a leader or accountable has to remove the self-pity hat and tell themselves, I have taken a leadership role. So first of all, I have to take care of everyone associated or helping me nurture the child in the school. Before you're able to do that, it's very important for you to practice mindfulness so that you're able to give, because you only can give what you have and you get what you give. This is part of my third book, by the way. It's very interesting conversation I've added, but we'll talk about it later. So what do we do about teachers? So also remember, as a leader, teachers and other staff members are coming from similar experiences, which needs to be taken care of. So having empathy and patience is important. patience. Tell your investors and people, hey, we'll meet numbers next year. This is the time I have to weave a lot of, holes, a lot of webs that have been created in terms of mental health for my people. Only then you're able to sustain it. Otherwise, you achieve your number this year, you won't be able to retain good people in your company or school. So patience and empathy. Organizing feel good or mindfulness events, breaks, celebrations, discussions, conferences, meetings, one-to-one coffee time, or whatever is best. In place of thinking how to utilize a staff member, look at how to provide support. So maybe your ratio is 1:10 or 1:20, depending on the age of the child. But if you think that the teacher might need support, add one more. That's the risk, guys, but that's a right investment. Set realistic goals and expectations. So the expectations you set as a JD or whatever measurable you had for 2019 or 2019, yes, you cannot have the same in 2022. You will have to relocate the whole placements of what to measure, how to measure, what is a priority, what are the expectations right now, so having that on the table is very important. So review your goals and expectations with people in your staff so that they are open, they are flexible, and they are confident to be able to achieve it. Otherwise, if there is experience of failure all the time and sense of not being able to achieve it, it's not going to have anybody motivated to continue. So there are some sample activities I want to share, which are my personal favorites, and I've done in my own classrooms before, now with people. So I know it works, and it worked with me as well. One is reflective writing. So having conversation going on or having a journal. I have my book with me. I keep writing daily, whatever I script out, or whatever makes me feel good about the situation. And I sometimes create it for myself or sometimes thank. Major idea here is to share gratitude for what I have and being thankful. So and it is the highest level of energy that you can radiate, being grateful. So when you look at what's best in your life, what's good happening, what all good things you've done or happened with you, expressing that great gratitude and not highlighting the devils of negatives will keep you go on, and what's happened is what happened, but what we have is now the present. So living in present is always about thanking for what you've gone through, for the day, for the breath you have right now, for the life you have right now, and then create your now, and that will take care of the future. So how do you do with this? How do you do this with children? Is simply telling them to be thankful for what they have, what makes them feel good, what was most interesting in their day or previous day or whatever you want to. So have very specific and also open-ended questions both at the same time, so they're able to express it. And wherever think that children are stuck, help them out. So this is for beyond 7-8 years. And of course, for young children, you can have those emoticons form given so that they can just express their emotions. So the second point is for them, emotional vocabulary list. So all that we know is if I'm happy or sad or angry, but what are different ways? I cannot just say I'm happy. Hey, you look happy. No, you look excited, you look curious, you look, dazzled, you look surprised. The happy is just one word and the emotion that children know. How about giving them vocabulary of different words so that they can express what they're actually feeling? So they cannot be angry, but I may be frustrated, disappointed, sad, upset, frustrated, furious, and so on. So you can have different words for different situations so that they'll know how to express and just say the right thing. If my pen falls down, I can't say, or if my, any stationary item falls down, I cannot say that I'm angry. I would have to say. So if I drop a book, and if I cry, hey, you were sad because your book. No, he's not sad because he's just scared, or the child is upset or disappointed. I could not take care of whatever the word is. You have to give that right word. And before you are able to do that, you need to learn yourself. So have that vocabulary list with you so that you can keep it in a classroom and have pointers so that children can point or how they're feeling when they're feeling. what they're feeling. Thirdly, meditation is just not, closing your eyes and, hey, no, you won't know. Meditation could be visual or guided. So take children on a journey of imagination, have a different scripts written for the child so that they know what to kind of see. And be sure that you've tested that script with you and with people. How does it make you feel? And just do that with the child. Meditation is a simple form of having focus, learning to be calm, learning to be still. So have different activities that surrounds this factor of meditation. Organizing some party games, so having children organizing certain classroom games or events, or something like that, so that they learn self-management, they learn how to what decisions to take, they learn how to organize things, and they have sense of belongingness with the people around. So that also is very important. What would you do sort of questions. So have a classroom wherein you just throw random questions. Hey, what would you do if, what would you do if, like that. Give them situations to discuss, think, and have a list of social emotional learning stages that you know what to ask and how to weave the conversation to achieve your learning outcome. Service projects. So give smallest projects as clean classroom, or organized classroom, or clean community, or garbage, the blue and the green kind of segregation of the garbage, or wet and dry, um, or making people smile, or doing something that makes people laugh. Whatever is the best service project that you can think of in the spectrum of your school or the community will help you engage children into these sort of emotions or the practice. Listening circles, so you can have listening is most important. I remember once I called a friend to share or ask a question. So I called, hey, it's been a long time. I wanted, before I could say anything, the person kept saying about, hey, I'm so happy, this, that. And she started talking about all about herself. In the end, I said, okay, thank you, bye. She didn't even ask, hey, why did you call? So don't assume why people call you. Sometimes they want you to listen. So listening is very important. So how do you give that foundational experience of being somebody who listens first, and wisest people listens? So listen to what you don't listen, something like that. So listening circles are activities that you can do maybe in the morning time, or end of the period, or end of the school time, or a zero period. However, you can just integrate that. Diversity story time. Ensure that you have right stories. I know people in India, schools I know in India, I don't know about other people, but I just have a feedback that schools I visited, I found that the stories are very uh, interesting part of any child, or us, of course, because storytelling, even though it's the branding people or the marketing people are using story as, hey, you want to be a storyteller, so that's all separate thing. I'm not talking about that as a storytelling. I'm talking about storytelling that teaches you, that it makes you learn about or get closer to who you are. Those story time, we ensure that it has sense of diversity, equality, and those factors that we want in global citizens to be mindful as citizens in the story. So before you share with students or children, do your homework, read the story, make your notes, if it's, and find the best book. If you don't have the hard copy, find it online, get your printouts, or write it yourself, whatever, but ensure that the story has quality, story has some essence of social emotional learning, and not just something to entertain. Entertainment can be created. You could also have something meaningful to be entertained, like you can have a role play, pretend play, dramatize the story, whatever, but ensure that the story is relevant to the world situation, to the current situation, or to the children's learning need. Lastly, the conflict resolution read alongs. Of course, you have certain case studies, or case study is a bigger word, but all I mean to say is, what would you do if sort of cases, and have children, that I had designed a lot of activities for my past organization where I used to add these, and I'll share one I was very proud to add was, I gave a situation of a birthday party wherein the birthday card is missed and one child has not received. So what are the three options? Are the two going to get fight are the two going to fight about the fact that the other person did not invite, or whether the ex person should go and talk to the birthday person, like, hey, did you miss sending me the card, or is there any reason, or what is the situation? So it was the best for 5 and 6 and 4 years old to discuss. This would be so much so interesting in a way. So yes, sort of those sort of conflict resolution read along you can prepare. And trust me, teachers and educators in schools, you are capable to design your own stories, which makes it relevant for the students. So do spend time writing. If you don't have, hire somebody who can write the story for you, and you can use your personalized story for your children. So that would be great, instead of just going to different publishers and buying. I know there are amazing authors and writers available. I encourage you to buy those high quality books. At the same time, have an opportunity to mix one of the original that is generated from the classroom. That'll really make sense of belongingness with the whole classroom community and parents. So do that. What is intentional planning for school? Next is that there are different ways to plan or develop curriculum. My personal favorite is the way to look at the backward design, which I'm sure many people must be using or be aware of. But I do believe in backward design planning, because you get to learn about what is your focus area or objective of this particular subject or topic, and then you come out and weave it with, okay, what is the development stage, and then okay, now the content of it can come up from the children's learning interest. So weaving the three together really gives you relevant curriculum plans. So intentional planning, how it is different from planning, why did I put intentional, is that you're intentionally planning, which means you know the learning outcome or the goals or the set priority for that session. And for optimal planning, use anecdotes, home-based evidences, information, identifying different level of the children, picking from there. That's another step or pillar for having very focused lesson plans. And lastly, for engagement, find out a lot of materials, resources that children can use and have choices to choose from. So they can make their choices to choose the materials or resources they want. So they have options. So I'm high scope trained, and I just fall. I believe that this approach of active learning is not it's called high scopes active learning, but active learning started way early during World War II. You can look at the history, and in India, right from the Valley School or Jiddu Krishnamurti is always encouraged active learning approach. Active learning approach is something that I preach. I was a child who was kind of what do you call, matching to this sort of approach and not the rote counting. And so I wasn't good at scores, but I was super good in understanding things by experiences. So active learning has been a very integral part of our industry education, but then as it evolved, it got lost, and we only know people now who are doing it. So don't just fancy it just because it's highlighted or Google suggests you, because Google is taking money to run the ads to be able to show you the best practice. So do your own research in finding the best practice which suits your philosophy, your ideology, and only then have that in the plate. Not just because it's called one of the best and the best schools doing it and you're implementing it to be called the best. No, that's not the right way. You have to look at your ideology, what is your purpose, and which methodology matches you. And most importantly, what do children need? And that's the research still missing. I don't think, if you have it, please do share with me, but I haven't come across any single document or data that talks about current needs of children, which must be a survey nationally done or state-wise done. I don't know. I would want to take it. If anybody is interested, write to me. I'd love to collaborate and work on this area. So yeah, these asking the right questions. The other important factor in here is that we must ask children the questions to which they know the answers to. Imagine somebody asks you, if I hid a compass box and ask you, hey, where is my compass? I was like, I don't know. This is the same experience children face or have when adults ask them the questions they don't have answers to. And then whoever is the guardian or the teacher or the parent would say, you don't know the simple thing. So this is the assumption of you know it or children know it. No, If you remember, if it's part of the classroom, if you've shared with the children, only then ask. So first, teach, let them experience, let them build their own experiences around that topic, then ask the questions. If you ask otherwise, you're impeding the social emotional development of the child. Routine calls to share achievement of children with regards to the new development is important to parents. So it's just not parents sending children to school and school takes care of everything. No, it's not about it. It's the equal partnership. So schools must define role of the parent and their role in a meeting, wherein parents know what work, what job they have to do at home. And if somebody says that we don't have time, we are working, parents is that no, you have your child to take care. You cannot just have a self-pity hat to be able to say that, hey, I don't have, you have to figure out. So, and the reason how you, or the way that you can figure it out is by asking questions, by asking for solutions, not by being resistant towards being an equal partner to this child's education. So just paying the fees or just finding the right school, you think it is a right school, but you don't know. How do you have it? So having a community build is the solution for everything. The researchers, school educators, school owners, teachers, nannies, staff, other staff people, parents, children, they all come up as community. And what is missing in today's education, or which we keep struggling about, is I am right and you are wrong, but not focusing on building that right community, having belongingness for each one of us, that are all of us are just focusing on having children nurtured right way, right? So, or the education going rightly to the children. That if you kind of get dazzled, the ego plays around. How can you say this, and you blaming me for this, blaming me for, if you're really engaging these sort of conversations, I think you're missing your focus. And if you're dealing with certain people, any party, take a right step and come back to your focus by having a constructive conversation on, hey, both of us are meeting today for one objective, is to develop X learning skill for the child in this month. All right, so I'm going to do this in the classroom and you're going to do this in the house, will really do wonders. Try this out, and you just have to give this amount of time during the foundational years. After the children are crossing 10, 11, 12, there are different priorities and needs, so you might not have to give uh, the quality time as you gave. There could be quality time differently. You want to make sure that children are independent, and you'll have different activities to play, a different role to play. So evolve and review the roles every quarter. This is going to really do wonders for the child. So use ways to make parents part of the community and equal role in child's learning years. So this is very, very crucial, guys. I have more strategies in the family engagement program, which I can design for your school. So if you have any questions related to that, write to me, I'll be happy to share. Lastly, recording and portfolio, the key, if you are taking care of early childhood and care for children through daycare, caregiving spaces, preschools, or any which ways, if you're a parent, say, you must have recording tools, documents, evidences of children's work. You must have anecdotes written in your handwriting then and there. If you don't do it, it becomes judgment later. So if I see something, anecdotes is writing what you see, the action, that the child took, and I always used to write the development areas so that it's easier while we make reports. So when you do that, and then and there you're writing, it will be what you see. But if you think, hey, I don't have time, I have so many children to take, and I'll do it later, then that later, when you look at your notes, the short forms, it'll become a judgment. The child may be doing this and become a judgment, which is not going to be right in terms of reporting a development to the child. And then eventually, if that is not right, how can you develop the next level of plans? So it's very critical. You have to understand this is not easy. It may be not easy, difficult, that's not the question, but it's the priority. If you're chosen to be teachers, if you're chosen to be early childhood educator, if you're chosen to be preschool owner, This is something we cannot neglect. Okay. Thank you so much. If you're looking for help in setting effective curriculum trainings, professional development programs, learning experiences for your school, feel free to write to me. This is my email ID. And I'll be really happy to share and work with you for the best. And here's my book, which is relevant to early childhood education community. It'll give a lot of context, because what I'm doing with 1 or 2 webinars are all put up in the form of chapters in the whole book. I am really honored that you could sign in. And if anything that I've said may have put any questions, any further inquiry or curiosity, please drop in a question. Thank you so much, and have a good one.